You're probably asking yourself, who is Lisandro Martinez? How good is Lisandro Martinez? And why does Arteta hold him so high on his list of priorities for summer transfer targets? I'll be answering all of those questions and more in today's episode of the Scout Report. If you're looking forward to it, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe. What will we be covering in today's episode of the Scout Report, I hear you ask? So first things first, we'll be looking at the player profile, covering all of those important basic details. Then we'll head over into some heat maps and look at how he could fit into this Arsenal team. Number 3, we'll be looking at some statistical analysis. And finally, to finish up, we'll be looking at his strengths and his weaknesses. Now, throughout this video, we'll also be looking to compare Lisandro Martinez to Arsenal players as well as other players across European football to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect when he finally joins Arsenal Football Club. But without no further ado, let's jump into those all-important basic details. Lisandro Martinez, currently an Ajax player aged 24 years old. It is said that he will eventually replace Otamendi in the Argentina national team, and he can play a variety of positions, a theme of most, if not nearly all, of the players that Arteta has targeted to bring in this summer transfer window. Predominantly, he plays as a left-sided centre-back, which is good news as it not only provides the cover that Arsenal need at left centre-back if, say, for example, Gabriel is injured, but also the competition. He can also play as a left wing-back, more of an advanced left wing-back. And also, if push comes to shove, he can play as a number 6, that defensive central midfield player, which again would provide cover for Thomas Partey. He is left-footed, standing at 5'7", and has a contract that runs until June 2025. And as I've said in a lot of these Scout Report videos, that does mean that all of the negotiation power does sit with Ajax. They are said that they do not want to lose both Lisandro Martinez and Justin Timber in the same transfer window, both of which are linked with moves away from the club. Now, Arsenal initially approached Ajax with a bid somewhere in the region of around £30 million. However, at the time of recording this video, Fabrizio Romano has said that Ajax are looking for closer to 40 to 45 million pounds. Now, that's not all up front. That would include add-ons. So it is certainly one to keep an eye on. Is that a little bit too much for a player that would potentially provide cover? Would he push Gabriel for a starting spot potentially? All yet to be seen. Let's have a little look at how he might fare in this Arsenal team and how he compares to our current left-sided centre-back. So as you can see on screen, in the top half, we have Lisandro Martinez's heat maps from the 2 previous seasons, including the most recent. And in the bottom half, we've got Gabriel, who featured very well for Arsenal last season. And you can see immediately off the bat, they are very, very similar players. Now, in the bottom right-hand corner of each heat map, you can see the respected season that they featured in. And one thing that stands out to me immediately is that Lisandro Martinez likes to probably get a little bit further wide compared to Gabriel, and also seems to be a little bit more advanced. And you can see that in the deep red. He does seem to spend quite a lot of time in the opposition half, not deep in their half, maybe in and around that halfway line, for example. And there are plenty of compilation videos online for you to go ahead and take a look at. He does like to pick up that ball in and around that space and ping diagonals to the wingers. It's very, very nice to see that Arteta isn't necessarily looking for a different type of player. He knows what he wants, and this is reflected in these heat maps. And this will drive better performances, not only on the pitch, but in the training ground as well, because no player is safe. But let me know your comments down below. Are you excited by these heat maps? Do they look like similar players, or are we overlooking something here? But let's have a little look at some statistics. How do they fare against each other from the season past? And it might give us a little bit more of an idea of what to expect when it comes to crunching those numbers. So on screen at the moment, on the left-hand side, we've got Lisandro Martinez's numbers from last season. On the right-hand side, we have Gabriel, who had a very, very good season, in my opinion. Now, all of the numbers above goals and assists are over the course of the season. Everything below that stat is per 90 minutes. So the one thing that initially stands out to me is that Lisandro Martinez played only 24 games, so 11 less than Gabriel, recording just shy of 2,000 minutes. So there's a huge, huge difference there. However, playing in a very good Ajax team, he did manage to keep 11 clean sheets compared to Gabriel, which was 12. But when we have a look at those goals conceded, there is a significant difference. Now, one thing that I will say is, and this is no disrespect to the Dutch league, the Premier League compared to the Dutch league, the Premier League is head and shoulders in terms of quality, in terms of physicality, in terms of pace. There's a whole bunch of metrics there to suggest that the Premier League is a much superior league. However, it doesn't mean that players don't transition well. There are plenty of examples. In terms of goals and assists, he does like to chip in with the odd one or two here. He has a total of 4 goal and assist contributions, compared to Gabriel, who was the highest in the Premier League last season as a centre-back, 5. Some real nice numbers there. Disciplinary record isn't anything to be too concerned about, only the 4 yellow cards, which is quite funny because his nickname is The Butcher. He is an aggressive, shorter centre-back compared to most. So when doing my research on this player, I did half expect to see that yellow card count or even that red card count potentially be slightly higher than it is. Now, one thing that did surprise me is how involved he is during those 90-minute performances for Ajax. 92 passes attempted per 90 minutes with an 88% completion rate. So in terms of completion, in and around what you'd come to expect from a Gabriel or a Ben White or even those top teams in the Premier League. But we do know that Ajax like to play total football like the Dutch national team. It's something that's part of their DNA. So no surprises there in terms of how often they pass the ball and move the ball around. Ball recoveries, way higher than Gabriel at 9.4. Tackles per 90 minutes, 2.3. Interceptions, 2.2. So all of those numbers there, maybe take them with a pinch of salt, given what I said in an earlier part of this video with the quality between the two leagues. But some very, very good numbers nevertheless. And for someone who is considered to be fairly short for what you would look at in a centre-back, 5'7", 5'8", somewhere in that ballpark, he does challenge 5.4 aerial duels per game, and he is successful in around 70% of those. Now, to put that into perspective, Gabriel is somewhere in the region of around 6'2", 6'3", and his is probably, what, 2 less than that? And 12% less than what we can see on screen. So height isn't everything. Sometimes it's the way you read the game, the way you position yourself. And he is very, very good considering his height. And last but not least, ground duels, 5.2, 68% success rate, which is in and around what you would expect for a decent centre-back. So as you've just seen on screen, some fantastic numbers. The big question is, should Arsenal secure his services? Will those numbers dip? The likelihood, in my opinion, is whether it's a big dip, whether there needs to be a transition period of 6 to 12 months before he gets back up into those numbers, is a question that we'll have to wait and see before we can answer. But to finish up on today's video, we'll have a little look at his strengths, his weaknesses, and how he fares across the top 5 leagues as well as European competitions. Let's bring that up right now. So on the left-hand side, we can have a little look here at his weaknesses. Blocks, clearances, and aerials 1. Now, I know we just said that aerials were one of his strengths, and that is highlighted in the box in green on the right-hand side. But the reason I bring it up is when we have a look at how he compares across Europe and the top 5 leagues. At the very bottom of the graph that you can see in the middle, we can see blocks, clearances, and aerials won are all in the red. Bottom 23 percentile, 16 percentile, and 9 percentile. So take that with a pinch of salt. But for me, aerials are not an area of concern for me. In terms of his strengths, passing is a big one. I know you shouldn't always live and die by YouTube compilation videos, but if you do go online and have a look, there are some fantastic videos highlighting just how good his passing is. Ground and aerial duels is something that we highlighted in the stats that we gathered in the previous slide, but is then also slightly backed up in the tackles 99 percentile, 3.13 per 90 minutes. So a top centre-back, a little bit more of an old school one, if you will. And then last but not least, in terms of strengths, is ball control, which is something that you would often associate with players who come from not only the Dutch league, but players who play for Ajax. So some good strengths and weaknesses there. The weaknesses, it was very difficult to find them, if I'm being honest with you. Not many people, articles or journalists could really say too much in terms of what he can't do, but it was all about what he can do and why he's been linked with Arsenal, Barcelona, Manchester United, amongst a host of other top European clubs. But if we have a very quick look before finishing up on this video at that graph in the middle, the top part of that graph, when we're looking at total shots, assists, expected assists, non-penalty XG and XA, which is expected assists, they are all in the 90 percentile plus, which is absolutely fantastic for a centre-back, but that's not the reason we're signing him. The reason we're signing him is for his tackling and his passing ability. Passes attempted, top 99 percentile. Passes completion, top 95 percentile. Progressive passes, which is very, very key when you're playing against these hard to break down sides like Brighton, Crystal Palace, Burnley, who fortunately aren't in the Premier League anymore. And then we've also got progressive carries, bringing that ball forward, which is something that Ben White does very, very well as a right-sided centre-back. And this is something that Lisandro Martinez would offer from the left-hand side, allowing our fullbacks to get a little bit further forward, as we know in that system that Arteta likes. So some absolutely fantastic numbers to have a little look at. Pause them at your own leisure. And if there is any information from today's video that you want to go back and look at, by all means do so. Pause the video and look at them and digest them at your own pace. But I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Let me know down in the comments below, should Arsenal be signing Lisandro Martinez? Should we be looking to sign someone else? Smash that like button if you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. But for now, I'm JC, and I will catch you in the next one. Stay safe and take care.